Hey everyone, Rob here, Gunfather Milsim. This video, I'm going to show you the edited version of the live cast that I did on 27th of June. It was an hour long, but as often happens in my discussions on the live shows, it kind of veered into real steel firearms. When we started talking about them, a certain subject came up and YouTube shut it down. So I had to restart it. So what you're going to see here in a minute is me restarting that live stream, and then you're going to see the remaining 30 minutes, and I'll document what we talked about in the section there with timestamps. I can't get back the first 30 minutes that got deleted. It still exists, only I can watch it. YouTube won't let me download it. That's their rules. It is what it is. I filed a protest, if you will, but I don't even know if a real person looked at it. It just got, nope, shut down. You can't use this footage because it violates our policies on firearms. That is what it is. It's YouTube's party. It's their platform, and if I'm going to post videos on here, got to play by their rules. Kind of is what it is. I do post my videos on other platforms, but honestly, nobody really watches them. So the second a new video sharing platform takes off that I can get the kind of the same viewership and spread the message as effectively on that theoretical platform as I do here on YouTube, I will be the first one to run to it. But until that day, and hopefully that day is in the near future, got to play by the rules here. So that's why it's going to look a little weird, and you're going to feel like you're starting a video mid-conversation. That's what's going on. So without further ado, here we go. All right. Let's try this a third time, and if I can't get it to work this time, I'm going to shut her down. See if I can get this this chat going here. I'll probably go for another 30 minutes if you guys jump in here. But admittedly, I'm getting a little frustrated with technology issues tonight. So I have no idea where that first chat went to. Kind of disappeared. So I got 2 in the chat. Here's what happened last time I started clicking on things and stuff started like disappearing. All right. Chat is here. Hello there, Andrew Sears. All right. We are working again. Hello. Got it. All right. It's a Sunday night. Shoot, guys. What do you want to chat about? Since this this live stream is pretty much torpedoed now from a technology standpoint. Maybe I can put it together later and make something cohesive and somewhat entertaining out of it. I tell you, it's of all the videos I make, the live streams, they don't really get a lot of traffic. I mean, some people watch them, but some people really like them. The ones that do like, I guess to get a lot of positive comments on them, but the actual number of views is really low. Not a lot of money in YouTube live streams for what it's worth. At least not on the Airsoft side, not for me. During previous live stream, got a notification the video violated terms. Shut you down for bringing in real steel. I think you're right, Phonics. I think you're right. That is interesting. Wow, they're on point, aren't they? Well, it's their platform. They can run it how they want. Thank you, Phonics, for putting that out there that happened. That would explain why I can't see it anymore. Wow, that's crazy. Huh. Makes you wonder what kind of algorithm, what I said that popped off the algorithm. What phrases I said, because I seriously don't think there's anybody actually, assigned to watching this live stream and saying, oh, he violated it, click, get rid of him. Huh. Wow. It kicked over to an ad, then black out the video with that message. Wow. Huh. I wonder if it was the name of the manufacturer of the scope or the actual brand of the scope. Huh. That goes to show, don't talk about things that they don't want you to talk about, huh? Andrew Sears. I watch you're using cover, and I was wondering if how long your weapon would affect how close to the cover you can be, i.e. shorter means closer. Yes, I think I replied to that question on the in the comments of that video. Yes, obviously a shorter barrel is advantageous in CQB because you can get closer to your cover. There is a certain point where being closer to the cover doesn't help you anymore, if that makes sense. When you're close to your vertical pivot point, okay, which is usually the doorway or the window or whatever, and you can try this out at home to see what I'm talking about. Get really close to a corner or what we call a vertical pivot point, and every minor move that you make when you're slicing that pie leads to a large increase of stuff that you can see on the other end. And the inverse of that is it's a lot of people that can see you because you're exposing yourself because you're so close to the apex of that vertical pivot point, if that makes any sense. So there is a point where if you're really, really close, you're actually causing yourself a disadvantage because it's very hard to take small bites. The further away you are from your pivot point, the easier it is for you to take really, really small bites when you're doing that clear, which is, depending on what you're doing, is advantageous. If time is of a factor, let's say you're doing a hostage rescue operation, then you don't want that. You want to be able to clear that in like 3 big bites. If it is a prepared defender, you know for a fact there is a bad guy in there and you know that bad guy is watching that door, and you want to preferably see their foot, the outside of their leg, their shoulder, their arm, before you see their eyeballs or before you see their whole body. You want to see a small sliver of their body and engage that sliver before they have a chance to see you. Then it is advantageous to do that clear in the smallest bites possible. And when doing that, it is advantageous to be further away from your pivot point. And by further away, I mean just a few steps or a few feet. But obviously, you can do that with a short barrel. You just got to move back. The other advantages of having a short barrel, or you don't expose your muzzle into the room when you're clearing from the doorway, which is something you want to avoid. Does it happen with longer barrel rifles? Yeah, it's sometimes it's very hard to avoid, especially when you're dealing with teammates and you're working in a team environment or stack, and someone's got to get behind you to go down the hall or whatever. It can be very difficult to not expose that barrel into the room. It happens. Is it to be avoided? Yes. Realistically, does it happen? Yes. In Airsoft, there really isn't an advantage to having a longer barrel from the pure how the BB flies downrange. Real steel is not the case. Real steel, longer barrel is better on some things. When I first got into shooting rifles many years ago, I wanted shorter and shorter and shorter barrels. And then I learned the mystery of ballistics, and all of a sudden the barrels got longer and longer and longer because I realized what I was giving up for that short barrel. You give up a lot in the real world. Airsoft, you don't give up shit for the most part. It's all on your hop-up system, not your barrel, is what creates your accuracy and range in Airsoft. So shorter barrel, good, which is why, generally speaking, most of my Airsoft guns have pretty short barrels, relatively speaking. Short as I can find. So that is a long answer to, honestly, it was a very good question. I think you said you bought it after event. Don't know what event is. Oh, got it. You're right. I think that is it. Phonics, I'm tracking you now. The event that motivated me to purchase that. Yeah, that probably, isn't that crazy? I'm not a young man. I've been on this earth a long time, and I remember a time before the internet. All you younger guys out there don't, for the most part. And I can tell you that I remember what it's like to be free. And there's a lot of scary shit going on with social media and algorithms and how they monitor you. And this is not free. There's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be a reckoning. Stand the fuck by. But we're talking about Airsoft, so. Phonics, any recommendation for bridging the gap between your CQB room clearing series and a live 3-day course, books, videos, DVDs, etc.? Then Brooks brings up Project Gecko on YouTube. Project Gecko is excellent. There's a very good, there's a lot of good stuff. The stuff that he teaches is very similar to the stuff that I learned in the high threat CQB classes that I've taken counterterrorism classes that I've taken professionally are very similar to Project Gecko. Some of the stuff that he does with quick peeks into rooms, I've never learned. I think it's very interesting the way he does them. I know it has to do with OODA loops, and I dig it. Might be a hard sell on a professional level to my teammates, but it's interesting watching it from a professional standpoint and watching the way he clears rooms in a one man. As a one man, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Those quick peeks. It's dangerous but effective. So, bridging the gap between your CQB series and a live 3-day course. I'm going to be hard pressed to get airsofters to go to a 8-hour course with half of it being playing airsoft at the end. I don't see any airsofters signing up for a 3-day course. I don't know if I have enough content to fill a 3-day course. I think I could easily fill an 8-hour course, but I don't think a lot of airsofters are going to want to go and sit through an 8-hour course. So, well, you will. Well, cool. Well, will you travel to see this course? I mean, it's bang for your buck. There's a lot of crap that goes into putting on a class. It's you got to price it at a level that people are willing to pay it to do your class, not feel like they're paying too much. You can't make the price so low. If you don't price it high enough, people don't think there's any value there. You also got to price it high enough so your class number will be where you want it. I could charge, let's say I charged, I don't know, a really low number, $20 for an 8-hour class. And let's say I got 100 participants in that class. Well, that's cool. I just made $2,000. But what is the quality of that class where I'm one dude teaching and I'm teaching 100 people? The quality of that class is garbage. Realistically, me being one guy effectively, hey, Phil, effectively to teach would be the level I'm comfortable with is 12 to 15 students. I could go as high as 20. After that, I got to bring in adjunct instructors, and even 20 is really pushing it. It's hard to really give anybody any personal attention. And when you're paying money for a class, you're going to want some sort of personal, hey, move your elbow here, do this, you want a little bit of personal instruction from that instructor. At least I do when I take a class. I mean, I'd be pissed off if I paid good money for a class and I show up and I'm one of 100 people. That's ridiculous. So real world, a lot of these places, they limit the class size. So you'll sign up and it's usually 12 to 20 is typical in real world. Obviously, real world, there's safety concerns, but there's safety concerns in airsoft too. I can't keep track of 100 people at a time. So I would love to put on classes at 12 to 20, but then, to make teaching that class worth my time, because, my time is valuable to me, the time I'm taking away from my kids and my family and whatnot, and just other shit I'd like to do. We got to make it worth the time. So, I mean, let's say I charge people $100 for a day. I got 12 people, $1,200. Cool. It's a good day for me. Are airsofters willing to spend $100 for an 8-hour class? I don't know. In the market that I live in the Midwest, I don't think they are. I really don't. In some of the larger markets, like in Phoenix, Arizona, California, yeah, it's probably a pretty reasonable amount because it's a bigger market. I'm shopping in a bigger pool of players versus my local market, which is a good, strong, healthy group of players. But honestly, in the grand scheme of airsoft, pretty small. So I don't know. Maybe I got to go sell myself to Evike or something and see if they'll, pay for me to go out to some field out in California and teach. We'll see. But then you got to take into travel costs and airfare and per diem and hotel and blah, blah, blah. And now I go down to my local field and I teach let's say I teach a 4-hour class there, but it's only a 30-minute drive or an hour drive both ways. I'm only out half a day. Whereas if I go out to California, I'm out at least 3 days, 3 days from work, 3 days from family, and all the inconvenience that causes. There's a lot of stuff that goes into, teaching. So that's just a kind of a glimpse into it. Okay. Brooks, I saw our Airsoft pick post. Thanks. Yeah, I do a little bit of stuff on Reddit. If you're in the subreddit for Airsoft or CQB, I'm in both of those. I'm also in the Milsim one. I don't post as much stuff though. I live in the Midwest. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. So that area is where I would initially put on classes to try to figure out kind of how I want to set them up. Phil's on my team, on my Airsoft team, Fire Team 6. It's not my Airsoft team, it's our Airsoft team, whatever. A 3-day course is called an OP. The better the AO, the better the opportunity to learn. Phil is correct. If I'm spending 3 days doing something, it's an OP. And I love to play. I love to play. I don't like to teach as much as play. Andrew Sears, thoughts on Speed Softer? That's a can of worms. Okay. Macro level. Okay. 50,000 foot view. This sport is entirely too small for us to fight amongst ourselves. Okay. In that respect, all airsoft is good airsoft. All airsoft that is safe and legal is good airsoft. Okay. There's your caveat, safe and legal. So, from that, having said that, I go back as far as a style. Speed soft is not for me, but I prefer having some sort of real world aspect to my airsoft, some sort of real world training. That's not even the right way to say it. Real world training, real world benefit. Okay. And speed soft is so rush. It's downright reckless. I see a lot of very effective speed soft players are downright reckless from a tactical perspective, but that recklessness and that speed is also to some degree for the sport that they do is very effective. And that's the shit you can get away with when you're playing a sport that you know there's set boundaries and you know where the other team is starting, and you know where you're starting, and you know how many of them there are versus how many of you there are. That's a sport, and therefore you can kind of game the sport and use that speed early on because you know there's not going to be anybody around that first corner because they're starting from the other side of the field. Therefore, you can game that sport and cover that distance quickly. And, from that perspective, you're literally trimming all the fat off of Milsim and getting just down to the cover and the, pressure, cover, tactics, all that stuff. You're getting down to the raw force on force aspect of it. And I like that. Part of me finds it very interesting. It's just not because it's a sport, so as is airsoft and Milsim and outdoor and all that stuff. I just prefer the outdoor stuff. So there is value in speed soft. I don't want to blow it off. I think a lot of the younger players are obviously attracted to the speed soft aspect of it. There's cheaters in both. It's not common. There's bad attitudes in both. There's toxicity in both communities, both the speed soft and the Milsim community. So it's not one or the other. I think you see a lot more videos from the speed soft side of things because it's easier to film stuff in speed soft or speed QB, whatever you want to call it, because the ranges are so short and it's easier to see what's going on. Whereas if you're in Woodland or Milsim, it's harder to get a good video because there's so much downtime while you're traveling from A to B and the engagements are so much farther. It's hard to see what's going on. So I think that's why, everybody's chiming in. Because of social media and sharing videos and stuff, speed soft does get more attention. Everybody's chiming in. I'm popular. So hopefully that answers your question. Have I played kind of speed soft stuff in the past? Yeah, when there was a local field that did it, I love doing it. It's a great way to, especially in the winter. Where I live, it gets cold in the winter, like real cold. And it was great to go in there, fucking run around and shoot the shit out of stuff. And really, honestly, it gave me a good venue to test some of the tactics and training that we use in the real world on SWAT. Does this stuff really work? And it turns out it does. So, Mr. National Wonder. You got any tips on leaning around cover? I don't feel like I do it right. Ugh, that is a big bag of worms. I did 2 videos on it, and the more recent one is only maybe it's a year old now. I did it when I was living in my apartment. So yeah, I did a whole video on proper use of cover. I think I can put a link to it below later. But just look in my video on tactics and strategy section, and you'll find it in there. Short version, always look around cover, never over, and tuck in that elbow and knock your knee so you're not exposing your elbow on your dominant side, on your gun side. Always around, never over. And face your cover. Don't put your back to it. Face your cover when you're searching around it. And you want to put your fighting foot forward. So if I'm looking around the right side of a piece of cover, I want to put my right foot forward versus my left. And if I'm looking around the left side of the cover, left foot forward. So Bushido T, what are you using to keep your goggles from fogging? I use FogTech DX, but there's lots of anti-fogging stuff out there. They all work great. They're all basically the same thing. Just find a good fog wipe and wipe down your goggles. During the summer, I use it and I hand it around to my team, and we all use it because once they dry out, they're worthless. But one wipe can wipe like 10 sets of goggles. So share. They cost $1 generally, but it's worth it just to be able to see. I don't put a lot of faith in anti-fog lenses. All lenses fog, but under the right condition, all lenses fog. But some fans work. Fog. What do I use? Fog X. What the fuck's it called? I forget. I did a video on it. They have a really good product. So if it's really humid, I use that. I use my X Fog X whiskey. X Fog works really well if I'm in a humid environment. I'm going to be playing for a very long time in a somewhat humid environment. I use X Fog. So turn that fan on, blow in my goggles. Sean, how do you use comms effectively on the field? That's another ball of wax. I did a couple of videos on comms. Thing about comms is they're only good if everybody that's on them knows how to use them, and people that don't know how to use them stay off them. And that's the really tricky part, is getting people who don't know how to use them to stay off them, because they're going to fill it with chirps and beeps and calls and dumb traffic like, hey, I see a guy right there. I mean, who are you? Where are you? What do you see? And where do you see it? And that's the kind of information you got to get out. So if you don't know what you're doing on a radio, stay off the goddamn radio. Having said that, you're never going to learn if you don't actually do it. If you want to learn, I think the best way is just to listen. Is to listen to how other people use the radio. The ABCs, accuracy, brevity, and clarity when you're using your radio traffic. Be brief. Hey, it's me. Say, like, for example, I'm going to use, let's see, my old Phil's on the thread here. So I'm using an example. I'd go, Rob to Phil, and Phil would come back, go for Phil. I'd say, I see two enemy players moving from left to right about 50 yards out at, just south of the red flag or whatever. And he would go, clear on that, I can see him. Clear on that, I don't have any eyes on him. Clear, I'm going to move to your position. I'm to your right and behind, or whatever. There's got to be like real accurate communication. Like, what exactly are we talking about specific to location and what you're seeing and where it is in reference to you. And the bigger your channel, the more people on your channel, the more strict you have to be with your language. When it's just 5 guys on a channel, you can be pretty casual. So much so that sometimes when we're using the channel, if there's only 3 or 4 guys on my team playing that day, they know my voice on the radio that I don't really have to identify myself. Hey, I got 4 moving left. They know where I'm at already. They know what I'm talking about. It's fine. When you have 50 players, 100 players on a channel, you got to have a really strict comms, really strict protocol for how you address people and talk to people and communicate. Law enforcement perspective, we'll have hundreds of people on a channel. So radios are very natural for me because I do it every day at work. Not so much for airsoft players. They're still at the 2 cans in a string approach. So short answer, talk less. And the talk, when you do talk, make it very accurate and effective communication. Hiram, it's a whole different style. I play both styles. When I go to Milsim Ops, I dress the part and use different tactics, but pick the games I get out die mask. Yeah, reference to Speed QB. Speed QB. Yeah, die mask. That's Speed QB guys wear them. They must be great because everybody uses them. I've never used one, but I'm sure they're really effective. I imagine they don't fog much because of the actual glass is a little bit further away from your eyes. And it's dual pane, I imagine. Oh, we're catching up, Fox. Phonics, set up a camera opposite of cover so you can critique yourself. It helps. Yes. Yes, very much so. I think I mentioned that in the video. And see how much of yourself you're exposing. I mean, you're talking about working corners. Set up a camera so you can see what you're doing. Mr. National Wonder. Left foot, right foot. I see where I messed up. Yeah. Fighting foot forward. Common mistake. Most people put their backs to cover. Don't put your back to cover. Face your cover. Makes everything easier ergonomically. Yeah, that won't build the back. Why don't you do it that way? Less strain. Yes. Unicorn anime girl. Here we go. Yeah, there it is. Deleted. Remove. I must be doing something right. I got people spamming. I got the whores jumping on here trying to sell their bullshit. Twig. How do you feel about working out in the gear you wear to the field? Ooh, fitness question from Twig. Good question. Depends. Honestly, if I'm trying out some new stuff, like a new rig, and I'm trying to find out if there's any points on there, like let's say I'm wearing a new plate carrier, and I'm trying to see if it's comfortable and if there's any points that are rubbing that I might not notice just throwing it on real quick, I'll jump on the treadmill and I'll jog a half mile, and I'll see if there's anything that's really bothering me after a half mile of jogging, then I'll adjust it. Same goes for any sort of, iPro if I'm trying to see if it's going to fog, just kind of stupid, but I've done that in the past when I was testing out the X-Fog. I actually did some jogging on the treadmill. Got to be careful in running around outside wearing your airsoft shit because people are going to call and they're going to freak out and they're going to think you're going to shoot up a school or something. So mentioning that might get me banned by Facebook. But yeah, or by YouTube. Don't run around outside. Lord knows, though, that when I do the Murph, I throw on my plate carrier and put some weights in there and I run around. And let me tell you, when I was running the Murph Memorial Day, I got some weird looks from some people on the trail, but honestly, fuck them. And but I think there's something to be said for it. I like rucking. I'm a big fan of rucking. If you cannot run, doing a march with a weighted vest is excellent fitness for airsoft. The type of fitness that you need to do well in airsoft, that steady state cardio you'll get from rucking is the best. I just prefer to run. I'm a runner, or I like to think I'm a runner. My guys on my airsoft team at Phil, who's in the chat, can attest to it. Everybody posts their runs to the group chat. I probably post my runs more than they do. They probably get sick of seeing it, but it kind of keeps me honest, showing the guys where, what was my run time on my 4-mile run, this week. So it keeps you honest, and it shows them that, hey, this is a priority for me, and they're the same way. It's a priority for them. A lot of them, they all work out. They all post their run times, and some of them are a lot faster than I am. I'm a beat up old man. Hiram, I go to TCA Ops, and the squad leader runs dual comms. Everybody else leaves the radios in the truck. Yeah. Squad leader, dual comms, one for the command channel, one for your squad channel. It's a good way to go. Phil, pre-op map study matters. Identifying landmarks for reference matters. Yes. Study your op. I hate going to new fields I've never played before. I love it because it's cool to play at a new field. But whenever I play at a new field, I always have a reasonable expectation of how things are going to go, because you're playing guys that's their home field and they're probably going to kick your ass at it, and they know where all the good spots are. And you can study. Usually I remember the first time I played at the Rock, I got this really cool topographical map, And I'm looking at it, and we're having like discussions in the group chat and shit and talking about it and blah, blah, blah. And you can only do so much. And then when you get there, it looks like when you're actually on the field versus looking at a map, it's two entirely different things. Once you've played a field once, you kind of know, you can kind of put the two together to what is what. It's a lot easier to discuss strategy and tactics, but until you actually play a field, that map's certainly so good. Mr. National Wonder, any grenade recommendations? I think I've done this kind of chat. So Twig, thanks for showing up, Twig. Have a good night. Appreciate the support. Any grenade recommendations? Personally, I use Thunderbees. And I still use Thunderbees because a lot of them, I still have a lot of them, and people who stopped using them gave them to me. I like other grenades that cost money. There's so many different ones out there right now that people use for airsoft. And I think I have some. Nope, I just freaked my dog out. I think I have some in here from some ops recently. Yeah, okay, this thing. Fucking R2BS airsoft grenade, 200 BBs inside. These things were great. I got these at a recent local op. My team was doing quite well, and the organizer gave us a box of these just to play with, and they're great. Work really well, but they cost like $8 to $10 a piece, I think, or something like that. Is it worth it for me to throw a lot of these at $8 a piece? Not really. But there's airsoft players that have deeper pockets than me, and if they think that's fun and they want to play with these, that's great. I like my Thunderbees because they're cheap. They cost about $1 each for me to do that. That's very affordable for me to play. But then again, I mean, these things are damn effective. I mean, it'd be worth it to carry 2 or 3 for a whole weekend. I mean, I would. That's $24 is no big deal. Am I going to go through 20 of them in a weekend? Fuck no, that's a lot. And let me tell you, I've been at ops. Phil was there with me. What was that one? It was fucking explosive, and I'm shaking it by my head. Probably not a good idea. At the big insane asylum, there were guys who freaking had like boxes of 100 of these goddamn things, and they were just throwing them all weekend, throwing them. I mean, they must have spent hundreds of dollars in these grenades to various effect. Autumn Tremor, yes, thank you, Phil. That was an Autumn Tremor. We had a ton of fun, but there were a lot of guys throwing a lot of bangs there, or grenades. Phil, posting run times keep us honest and pushes us. Yep, that's the plan. That's the goal. You guys push me too. I have a hard time keeping up with you. Phil's one of the older guys on our team. He's younger than me, but he can see my age from where he's at. But tag grenades for the win. I hear good things. Tag 67, EG 67s are some of the ones I use. Yep, they're great. I gotta see what else I got in here. This is I just kind of threw this bag out here. I should have grabbed it earlier. I'd have had the answer to a lot of my questions. Yep, there's my X-Fob. You can't really see it. There's when I'm wearing, I do CQB, I wear this. And I think that's the only grenade I have in there. I got 2 of them. I have 2 left. They gave us a box, and I just handed them out. So we like them. They're not as good outdoor. Outdoor, it's kind of, there's not a lot of weight to those things, so it's kind of hard to throw them in outdoor. It's a lot easier when you can just underhand place them in a room next to you, a door next to you. They're very effective. If I got to throw it 25 yards to get a guy who's hiding behind a bush, that's a very low probability of success on that one. Hiram, shotgun primer grenades are great for room clearing. The TRMR has 4 primers, so you can use it 4 times before reloading it. I have no idea what that is. I think it's interesting. CO2 or green gas pistol, your preference. Tough call. I'm not a big fan of relying on your pistol in airsoft. Problem with a lot of the CO2 ones early on where they run hot, they run over the field limits for an AEG, but now anymore they run over that 1.48. But I've heard a lot of the newer ones are actually properly tuned from the factory. So they're, hit about that 350 to 400 in that realm. Personally, I use green gas. I love the convenience of CO2. I really do. I would love to use a CO2 pistol if I could find a Glock CO2 pistol that was a real Glock by specs as far as will it fit in my holster. That's a big thing when I'm buying a airsoft pistols. I want to fit the real steel holster that's a fitted holster. So I want it to fit my Safariland holster. Versus, a lot of them, yeah, it looks like a Glock, but the dimensions are just a little bit off, and therefore the retention doesn't work, and blah blah blah. That's my big priority. Does it actually fit my holster? And I guess if I could find a CO2 one that worked well and was under the field limit, I would use CO2 for the convenience. As of yet, I haven't found one, so I still use green gas. My current pistol is what the fuck is that thing? It shows you how often I use it. It's a Glock 17. It's goddamn. Since when I made this, Elite Force, the Elite Force Glock 17 is what I use. So you're seeing some of my fucking CTE from years of boxing chiming in. Okay, 34 minutes. So I'm hoping if there's no other questions out there, hopefully I can take the about 30 minutes I did from the first video before I got shut down by the powers that be at YouTube and the 34 minutes of this one, and hopefully put together a cohesive live stream that's going to be worth watching. So if you want to chime in, now's the time. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and sip whiskey. Jack Daniel's honey, for those that are wondering. No takers? Okay. Well, with that, thanks everybody for chiming in, and thanks for watching. And I'll probably see you in the next one. Hopefully I can put out some more video. I got a couple ideas for videos. I'm going to put out some more stuff this next month. Once my work settles down a little bit and I got a little more time to come up with some stuff. And after that, I'll probably do another live stream. Probably I try to do live streams at the end of the month. So at the end of July, I'll probably do another live stream. Hiram, I'm going to do a sling video coming up here. So we can talk about slings more then. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.